The ship moved through the darkness of space like a small fish swimming into the mouth of a whale. Ambassador stood at the observation window and watched as the massive station grew larger and larger before her eyes. Helix 9, the neutral ground where 12 species gathered to decide the fate of the galaxy. And today, for the first time in history, humans would sit at that table. She was not a tall woman. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple style, and her dark eyes held a calm that many mistook for weakness. She wore the simple gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. No medals, no bright colors, nothing that would draw attention. This was by design. Humans had learned long ago that the galaxy respected power, and power did not need to show off. Behind her, the door opened with a soft sound. She did not turn around. She already knew who it was. "Ambassador," said her aide. He was a young man with a sharp mind and an even sharper memory. He carried a small device in his hand that would record everything that happened in the coming hours. "We dock in 15 minutes. "I know," said. Her voice was soft but clear. "Are the others ready?" "Yes, all 30 members of our delegation are prepared. They know their roles." Nodded slowly. 30 humans. That was all Earth had sent to this historic meeting. That had brought 200. That had brought 150. Even the small Nari delegation numbered 80, but had chosen each of her 30 people with great care. They were not soldiers or warriors. They were listeners, observers, people who could remember every word, every gesture, every look that passed across an alien face. "What do you think they will ask for?" asked. He moved to stand beside her at the window. Was quiet for a long moment. The station now filled most of the view. It was a massive thing, built from the combined efforts of 7 species over 300 years. Rings within rings, spinning slowly in the void. Lights sparkled across its surface like stars brought down to Earth. "They will ask for everything," she finally said, "and they will expect us to give it." Frowned, "And if we refuse? Then we will see what the galaxy is truly made of." The docking process was smooth and quick. Earth's ship, the Harmony, was small compared to the massive vessels of other species, but its technology was solid and reliable. The humans had not been traveling the stars for very long. Only 80 years had passed since the first human ship had left the solar system. In that time, they had built 12 colony worlds, established trade with 4 species, and earned a reputation as hard workers who kept their word. But they had also earned another reputation. They were seen as weak, young, inexperienced, a species that had not yet learned its place in the grand order of things. As walked down the ramp and onto the station, she could feel the eyes of 100 aliens watching her. They stood in small groups along the docking bay, whispering to each other in languages her translator could not fully capture. She caught fragments of their words. "It's so small. Barely out of their birth system. Why are they even here?" She kept her face calm and her steps steady. Behind her, the other members of her delegation followed in perfect formation. They had practiced this walk many times. Every movement was deliberate. Every expression was controlled. A tall figure stepped forward to greet them. It was one of the oldest and most powerful species in the coalition. They were impressive creatures. They stood nearly 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors based on their emotions. This one's skin was a deep purple, the color of confidence and authority. "Ambassador of Earth," they said. Its voice was deep and resonant. "I am High Speaker. I welcome you to Helix 9 on behalf of the Grand Coalition." Gave a small bow of respect. "Thank you, High Speaker. Earth is honored to be invited to this gathering." Skin flickered with a hint of blue, amusement. "Invited is perhaps not the right word. Your species has grown, noticeable. The coalition has decided it is time to discuss your place among us." "We look forward to those discussions," said smoothly. Studied her for a long moment. Its 4 eyes moved independently, examining her from multiple angles at once. Then it made a sound that might have been laughter. "I'm sure you do. Come, The other delegates are waiting." The walk to the negotiation chamber took nearly 20 minutes. The station was vast, and the path wound through corridors of every shape and size. Some were built for creatures that walked on two legs. Others were designed for those who crawled or floated or moved in ways that humans could barely understand. The air itself changed from section to section, warm and dry in one place, cold and wet in another. Through it all, walked with her head held high. She noticed everything. The way certain species moved aside when they passed, the way others clustered together in tight groups, their body language speaking of old alliances and older hatreds, the way everyone, without exception, looked at the humans with something between curiosity and contempt. The negotiation chamber was enormous. It had been built to hold representatives from dozens of species at once, and today it was nearly full. 12 delegations sat in curved sections that faced a central platform. Each section was designed to match the needs of its occupants. The floated in tanks of thick liquid. The Nari perched on branches that grew from the walls. The sat on massive chairs that let them stretch all four arms. The human section was simple. 30 chairs arranged in neat rows facing the center. No special accommodations. No adjustments for comfort. Earth had not asked for any. Took her seat at the front of her delegation. Sat directly behind her, his recording device already active. The other humans settled into their places without a sound. For several minutes, nothing happened. The various delegations spoke among themselves in low voices, used this time to study her surroundings. She noted which species sat close together and which kept their distance. She observed the small gestures and signals that passed between certain delegates. She watched the most carefully of all. Finally, High Speaker rose from its seat and moved to the central platform. The chamber fell silent. "The Grand Coalition welcomes all present to this historic gathering," announced. Its voice carried easily to every corner of the room. "Today we address a matter of great importance. The species known as humans has expanded beyond their home system. They have built colonies. They have established trade. They have made their presence known throughout this sector of space." Paused and looked directly at. "The time has come to determine what place, if any, humanity will hold in our grand community." There was movement among the other delegations. Soft sounds of agreement remained perfectly still. "As is tradition," continued, "the established members of the coalition will present their position first. Humanity will then have the opportunity to respond." One by one, representatives from each species rose to speak. They spoke of resources. Humanity's colonies sat on worlds rich in rare minerals that the coalition desired. The Nari spoke of territory. Human expansion threatened to block traditional routes of travel and trade. The small creatures with quick minds spoke of technology. Humans had developed unique methods of medicine and engineering that they had not yet shared with the galaxy. Each speech was polite on the surface, but beneath the careful words heard the true message. "You have things we want. You will give them to us. This is not a request." When the last speaker finished, turned once again to face the human delegation. "Ambassador, you have heard the concerns of the coalition. Before we present our formal proposal, do you wish to speak?" Rose slowly from her seat. She was aware of every eye in the room fixed upon her. She was aware of how small she must look to these beings who measured power in size and age and military strength. "I thank the coalition for this opportunity," she said. Her voice was calm and clear. "Humanity is young among the stars. We have much to learn from those who came before us. We have listened carefully to all that has been said today, and we are grateful for the honesty with which you have shared your concerns." She paused. The translator carried her words to every corner of the room. "We ask only that the coalition show us the same respect. Whatever proposal you present, we will consider it carefully. We will respond honestly, and we will make our decision based on what is best for our people." Skin shifted through several colors in rapid succession. It was difficult to read, but thought she caught a flash of orange. Irritation, perhaps, or surprise. "Very well," said. "Then let us proceed to the matter at hand." The High Speaker gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed a map of the sector, with human colonies marked in blue and coalition territories in various other colors. "The coalition proposes the following," announced. "Humanity will surrender control of 3 colony worlds, the worlds known to you as New Sol, Harbor, and Prosperity. These worlds will be placed under coalition administration." A murmur ran through the human delegation. Its recording device hummed softly as it captured every word. "In addition," continued, "humanity will provide full access to all medical and technological advances developed by your species. This includes the healing compounds produced on your agricultural worlds and the adaptive manufacturing methods used in your shipyards." His face remained perfectly calm, but inside she felt a cold anger beginning to build. "In exchange for these contributions," said, "humanity will be granted provisional membership in the Grand Coalition. You will receive protection under coalition law. You will be permitted to trade freely in coalition space, and you will have voice, though not vote, in coalition gatherings." The holographic display faded, looked down at from its great height. "This is our offer. It is more than fair, considering your species' youth and limited resources. We expect your response within 1 standard day." Stood perfectly still for a long moment. Around her she could feel the tension of her delegation. They were angry, they were frightened, but they held their composure just as she had trained them. "High Speaker," she said finally, "I have one question before we adjourn." Skin shifted to pale yellow. Curiosity. "Ask." "Is this the Coalition's final offer?" The question hung in the air. Several of the other delegations exchanged glances, waited. Made that sound again, the one that might have been laughter. "Ambassador, you seem to misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. We are not asking. We are telling you the terms under which humanity may join our community. There is no counteroffer. There is no discussion. You will accept these terms or you will face the galaxy alone." Nodded slowly. "Thank you for the clarity," she said. "We will give you our answer." She turned and walked back to her seat. Around her, the chamber buzzed with quiet conversation. The other species seemed pleased. They had expected more resistance from the young humans. This acceptance of their fate was a good sign. But sitting behind saw something the aliens did not. He saw the slight smile that crossed his ambassador's face, a smile that did not reach her eyes. He began to understand that the galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson about humanity. The humans had been pushed to the edge. Now the universe would see what happened when they pushed back. The hours after the first session passed slowly. The human delegation had been given quarters in a section of the station that was clearly meant for lesser species. The rooms were small. The air was thin. The lighting was too bright for human eyes. None of this was an accident. Sat in the main room of their quarters while her delegation gathered around her. 30 faces looked at her with a mix of emotions: fear, anger, confusion, hope. She had seen all of these before in the faces of her people. She had learned to read them the way others read words on a page. "Ambassador," said the eldest member of their team. She was a woman of 60 years with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had spent her life studying the cultures of alien species. "They cannot be serious. 3 colonies, our medical technology, our manufacturing secrets. They are asking us to give up everything we have built." "They are not asking," said a young man who specialized in trade agreements. "You heard the High Speaker. This is not a negotiation. They are telling us what to do." "And they expect us to simply obey," added Sara, who had spent 10 years living among them, "like children being scolded by their parents." The room filled with angry voices. Everyone wanted to speak. Everyone had an opinion. Let them talk for several minutes. It was important for them to express their feelings. It was important for them to know that their voices mattered. Finally, she raised her hand. The room fell silent. She said, "Play back the high speaker's exact words." Her aide touched his device, and his voice filled the room. "You will accept these terms, or you will face the galaxy alone." Nodded slowly. "Alone," she repeated. "They believe that is a threat. They believe that without the coalition, humanity will fail. They believe we need them." "Don't we?" asked a young woman who had only recently joined the diplomatic corps. "They have older technology, larger fleets, more resources if we refuse their terms." "If we refuse their terms, what will they do?" asked quietly. The room was silent. No one had an answer. "I have studied the coalition for 15 years, continued. "I have read every treaty they have made. I have examined every conflict they have been involved in. Do you know what I found?" She stood and walked to the window. Outside, the station continued its slow rotation. Stars wheeled past in an endless dance. "I found that the coalition has never fought a real war, not once in 300 years. They have made threats. They have shown force. They have bullied smaller species into submission, but they have never actually had to fight. Because no one has ever refused them," said slowly. "Exactly," turned back to face her delegation. "The coalition is built on fear, fear of their power, fear of their numbers, fear of being left alone in a hostile universe, but fear only works if the victim believes in it." Frowned. "Are you suggesting we call their bluff?" "I am suggesting that we consider our position very carefully," replied. "What do we have that they want? Show them." Her aide activated a small projector. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing detailed information about human resources and capabilities. "First, our medical compounds," said. "Humans have developed treatments that work on nearly every known species. Our healing drugs have saved millions of lives across the galaxy. They alone import enough human medicine each year to fill 100 cargo ships." The display shifted to show manufacturing data. "Second, our adaptive technology. Human engineers have created systems that can be modified to work in any environment. Our ships may be small, but they can operate in conditions that would destroy vessels. Our factories can produce goods that meet the needs of any species, not just our own." Another shift, trade routes appeared on the display. "Third, our position. Human colonies are located at the junction of 4 major trade lanes. Any ship traveling between the core worlds and the outer rim must pass through human space. We do not control these routes, but we do make them safe. Our patrol ships protect merchants from pirates. Our stations provide fuel and repairs. Our hospitals treat the sick and injured." Let the display fade. "The coalition claims we need them, but the truth is far more complicated. They need us. They have grown dependent on what we provide, and they do not even realize it." Sara leaned forward. "So what do we do? Refuse their terms and hope they do not attack us?" "We do something they do not expect," said. "We walk away." The room erupted in confused voices, waited for them to quiet. "Tomorrow, when the session reconvenes, they will expect us to negotiate. They will expect us to beg for better terms. They will expect us to behave like every other young species they have ever bullied. Instead, we will thank them for their offer and leave." Leave looked shocked, just like that. Just like that. No anger, no threats, no drama. "We will simply thank them for their time, explain that we cannot accept their terms, and go home." Shook his head. "They will think we are weak. They will think we are afraid." "Let them think what they want," replied. "Actions speak louder than words. They will understand soon enough." The hours passed. The human delegation rested as best they could in their uncomfortable quarters. Some slept. Others reviewed data on their personal devices. A few sat together in small groups, speaking in low voices about what was to come. Did not sleep. He sat in a corner of the main room watching his ambassador, had not moved from her position by the window. She stood perfectly still, her eyes fixed on the stars. "You have a question," she said without turning around. Was no longer surprised by her ability to sense his presence. He had worked with her for 5 years and had learned that she noticed everything. "Many questions," he admitted, "but one in particular." "Ask." He stood and walked to stand beside her. "You seem very confident, but the Coalition has 12 species, thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. If they decide to take what they want by force, they will not." "How can you be sure?" Was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. "When I was young, I lived in a small village in the mountains. We had very little. Our neighbors were wealthy and powerful. They could have taken everything we had whenever they wanted. Do you know why they didn't?" Shook his head. "Because we made ourselves useful. We grew crops that they needed. We made tools that they wanted. We provided services that made their lives easier. And most importantly, we never made them feel threatened. We were small and weak, but we were also necessary." She turned to look at him. "Humanity is that village. The Coalition is our wealthy neighbor. They do not want to destroy us. They want to use us. That is why they demand tribute instead of simply taking what they want. They need us intact. They need us productive. They need us alive. But if we refuse to pay tribute, then they will have a choice. They can attack us and destroy everything we provide, or they can let us go and hope that we will return on better terms." Smiled slightly. "The Coalition is not evil. They are simply greedy, and greedy people always choose profit over pride." The next morning came too quickly. The human delegation gathered in the main room, dressed in their simple gray uniforms. No one spoke. Everyone knew what was coming. Led them through the corridors of the station, past aliens who watched them with curious eyes. The walk to the negotiation chamber seemed shorter this time, perhaps because walked with more purpose, perhaps because the weight of what they were about to do pressed on all of them. The chamber was full when they arrived. All 12 delegations were present, filling their designated sections with bodies and voices and expectations. The mood was different today. There was an air of anticipation. Everyone expected to see the young humans bow their heads and accept their fate. Took her seat at the front of her delegation. Sat behind her, his recording device ready. Around them, the other humans settled into place with practiced calm. High Speaker rose and moved to the central platform. Its skin was a bright green today, the color of confidence and satisfaction. "We reconvene this gathering to receive humanity's response to the Coalition's proposal," announced. "Ambassador, you may speak." Stood slowly. She could feel the weight of every eye in the room upon her. Aliens of a dozen different species watched her, waiting to see how this small, young, inexperienced creature would submit to the will of the galaxy. She took a deep breath. "High Speaker, distinguished delegates of the Grand Coalition, on behalf of humanity, I thank you for your hospitality during our stay on this station. I thank you for the opportunity to hear your concerns about our species' growth and expansion. I thank you for the clarity with which you have presented your proposal." She paused. The chamber was perfectly silent. "However, I must inform you that humanity cannot accept the terms you have offered." A ripple of surprise ran through the room. Skin flickered through several colors before settling on yellow. "You wish to negotiate," the High Speaker said. "It was not a question. This is expected. We are prepared to discuss minor adjustments to our proposal." "No," said simply, "we do not wish to negotiate." More surprise, more confusion. The delegates of other species leaned forward in their seats, trying to understand what was happening. "Then what do you wish?" demanded. Its skin was shifting toward orange now, the color of irritation. Gave a small bow of respect. "We wish you well," she said. "We wish the Coalition prosperity and peace. We thank you again for your time and consideration, but we cannot give you what you ask for. We will not surrender our colonies. We will not share our technology under threat. We will not accept provisional membership in an organization that treats us as servants rather than partners." She straightened her back and looked directly at the High Speaker. "Humanity will go home now. If the Coalition wishes to speak with us again in the future under different terms, we will be happy to listen. Until then, we wish you all the best." And with that, she turned and walked toward the exit. Behind her, her entire delegation rose as one and followed. The chamber exploded into chaos. Delegates shouted in a dozen languages. Bodies moved in confusion. Somewhere, someone was calling for guards. Somewhere else, someone was laughing in disbelief. But the humans did not stop. They walked with calm purpose through the massive doors and into the corridor beyond. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden silence that had fallen over their section of the station. Walked beside, his heart pounding in his chest. "They might try to stop us," he said quietly. "They might," agreed, "but they won't." "How do you know?" She glanced at him with a small smile. "Because stopping us would require making a decision, and the Coalition is very bad at making decisions quickly. By the time they figure out what to do, we will be gone." She was right. No one tried to stop them. The corridors were full of aliens watching in confusion as the human delegation marched past. Some called out questions. Some made gestures that might have been insults, but no one stepped in front of them. No one raised a weapon. No one did anything at all. The Harmony was waiting at the docking bay, exactly where they had left it. The crew was ready. The engines were warm. Within minutes of boarding, they were pulling away from the station. Stood at the observation window, watching Helix 9 grow smaller and smaller behind them. Around her, her delegation was beginning to relax. There were smiles now. There was even some quiet laughter. They had done it. They had walked away from the most powerful organization in the known galaxy. But did not smile. She knew that this was only the beginning. The real challenge was yet to come. The Coalition would not simply forget what had happened today. They would talk among themselves. They would argue about what to do. And eventually, they would realize the truth. The humans had called their bluff. And now the galaxy would have to decide what kind of place it truly wanted to be. Came to stand beside her once again. "What happens now?" he asked. Looked at the stars stretching out before them. Somewhere out there, 12 species were learning a lesson that they had never expected to learn. "Now," she said quietly, "we wait, and we watch, and we let them understand what they have lost." The ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, and the stars became streaks of light. The universe had been shaken, and it would never be the same again. The news spread through the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Within hours of the human delegation's departure, every species in the Coalition knew what had happened. The young ones, the weak ones, the small creatures who had barely learned to fly between the stars, they had said no. On the High Speaker stood before the Supreme Council and tried to explain. Its skin shifted through a rainbow of colors as it described the moment when Ambassador had turned and walked away. The council members sat in stunned silence. In 300 years of Coalition history, no species had ever refused their terms. No one had ever dared. "They will return," insisted. "They are frightened, confused. They do not understand what they have done. When they realize their mistake, they will come crawling back and accept whatever terms we offer." But even as the High Speaker spoke these words, doubt flickered across its skin in pale shades of gray. On the water world of the floating cities buzzed with anxious conversation. They were a practical people. They measured value in resources and trade. And they understood, perhaps better than any other species, what humanity provided to the galaxy. Elder drifted through the central chamber of the capital city, listening to the voices around her. Young spoke of war. They wanted to take what humanity refused to give. But the older ones, those who remembered life before human medicine, spoke of different things. "My daughter would be dead without their healing compounds," said one old merchant. "When the gray sickness swept through our sector, it was human drugs that saved us, millions of lives, and they ask nothing in return but fair trade." "Fair trade is not enough," argued a young warrior. "They have grown too bold, they must be taught their place." Elder made a sound of disappointment. "And how would you teach them? With warships. The humans may be few, but they are clever. Their colonies are well defended. Their patrol ships know every corner of the trade routes. A war with humanity would cost us more than we could ever gain." The warrior had no answer to this. Few did. On the forest moon of the Nari, ancient trees swayed in winds that had blown for 1,000,000 years. The Nari had watched many species rise and fall. They measured time in centuries, not days. A single human lifetime was barely a heartbeat to them. But even the patient Nari were concerned. Sage perched on a branch that overlooked the great valley. Below her, younger Nari gathered to hear her wisdom. She had lived for 800 years. She remembered when the coalition was formed. She remembered when humanity first reached out into the stars. "We have made an error," she said. Her voice was like wind through leaves. "We treated them as we treat all young species, with demands, with threats, with the assumption that they would bow before our power." "And they should have," chirped a young Nari. "They are nothing, a handful of worlds, a few million souls. What can they possibly do against the might of the coalition?" Sage made a sound that was almost like laughter. "What can they do? Let me tell you what they have already done. They have built colonies on worlds that we considered worthless, harsh worlds, dangerous worlds, worlds where no other species could survive, and they have made these worlds flourish." She spread her wings, casting shadows across the gathered crowd. "They have created medicines that heal creatures they have never met, not because we asked them to, but because they wanted to help. They have opened their stations to travelers of every species, asking nothing but common courtesy in return. They have fought pirates and raiders who threatened our trade routes, even when it cost them lives." Her voice grew softer but somehow more powerful. "We called them weak because they did not threaten us. We called them naive because they chose cooperation over conflict. But perhaps we were the naive ones. Perhaps we failed to see that their strength lies not in weapons or numbers, but in something far more dangerous." "What?" asked the young Nari. "Hope," said the sage. "They give people hope, and you cannot defeat hope with warships." Weeks passed. The coalition held meeting after meeting, debate after debate. The various species argued about what to do. Some wanted to send a fleet to human space to show them the consequences of their defiance. Others wanted to wait, convinced that the humans would come to their senses. Still others suggested compromise, reaching out with better terms. But while the coalition talked, humanity acted. Ambassador returned to Earth and gave her report to the World Council. The leaders of humanity listened in silence as she described what had happened on Helix 9. When she finished, there was a long pause. "They will come for us," said Counselor, an old man who had spent his life preparing for this moment. "Maybe not today, maybe not next month, but eventually they will try to take what they want by force." "Perhaps," agreed, "but that is not the immediate concern." "Then what is?" Touched a control, and a holographic display filled the room. It showed the major trade routes that crisscross the galaxy, with human-controlled space highlighted in blue. "The coalition expects us to suffer in isolation. They believe that without their protection, without their trade, without their approval, we will wither and die. They are wrong." She pointed to various points on the map. "Here, here, and here. Independent species who are not part of the coalition. Smaller nations who have been bullied and ignored by the great powers. We have already begun reaching out to them. Trade agreements, defense pacts, cultural exchanges." The display shifted to show new lines, connecting human space to these independent worlds. We do not need the coalition. We never did. What we needed was the confidence to stand on our own. Now we have it. Counselor Minu, a woman known for her cautious nature, leaned forward. And what of our existing trade with coalition members, the medical supplies, the technology agreements? We will honor all existing contracts, said. Every promise we have made will be kept. We are not the ones breaking faith here, but we will not sign new agreements until the coalition treats us as equals. They may see that as a threat, Minu warned. Smiled slightly. Let them. We are not the ones who drew lines in the sand. We are simply choosing not to cross them. The World Council debated for 3 days. In the end, they approved plan unanimously. Humanity would stand alone. Humanity would build new alliances. Humanity would show the galaxy that strength came in many forms. The effects of this decision began to show almost immediately. Human trade ships continued to travel the space lanes, but they no longer stopped at coalition stations. Instead, they used their own facilities or those of independent worlds. This meant longer journeys and higher costs, but it also meant freedom. Human medicine continued to flow to those who needed it, but the prices changed. Coalition members who had once received favorable rates now paid the same as everyone else. Meanwhile, independent worlds received discounts that made human drugs more affordable than ever. Most importantly, human patrol ships continued to guard the trade routes that ran through their space. Pirates who had once feared the coalition now found themselves facing human cruisers instead. The protection was just as good. Some said it was even better. Human captains had a reputation for showing mercy to those who surrendered, something that coalition forces rarely did. 3 months after the walkout, Elder of the received a message from one of her merchant captains. The humans are not suffering, the captain reported. If anything, they are thriving. Their colonies are busier than ever. Their ships are everywhere, and species that once ignored them are now lining up to do business. Read the message several times, feeling a cold weight settle in her chest. The coalition had expected humanity to come crawling back within weeks. Instead, they were watching the young species grow stronger with each passing day. Similar reports came from every corner of the galaxy. The Nari observed human ships entering their territory, not as invaders but as traders. They noted that human technology was appearing in markets where it had never been seen before. Even the mighty began to notice changes in the flow of goods and information. The coalition held an emergency session. High Speaker stood before the assembled delegates with skin that flickered between colors of confusion and concern. We must take action, declared. The humans have us. They continue to defy us. Every day that passes without consequence makes us look weak. What action do you suggest? Asked Elder. War. Our own analysts say that a military campaign against humanity would be costly and uncertain. They have had decades to fortify their colonies. Their ships are small but fast. Their people are stubborn. Then economic pressure, insisted. We ban all trade with human space. We forbid any coalition member from doing business with them. And how do we enforce such a ban? Asked Sage. Human goods are already flowing through independent channels. Banning direct trade will only push more business to those channels. We will hurt ourselves more than we hurt them. The chamber erupted in argument. Species blamed each other for the current situation. Old rivalries emerged. The unity that had held the coalition together for centuries began to crack. In the end, no decision was made. The coalition could not agree on a course of action. Some wanted war. Some wanted peace. Some wanted to pretend the whole thing had never happened. The result was paralysis. And while the coalition argued, humanity continued to grow. New alliances were formed. New trade routes were established. New technologies were shared with species who had never dreamed of receiving such gifts. The galaxy was changing, and the change was accelerating. On Earth, watched the reports come in with quiet satisfaction. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The coalition was too divided to act. The independent worlds were too grateful to betray humanity's trust, and with each passing day, the balance of power shifted just a little bit more. Stood beside her, reading the latest intelligence summaries. "They are running low on medical supplies," he reported. "Their stockpiles will last another 6 months at most. After that, they will have to come to us or watch their people suffer." "They will come to us," said. "They are a practical people. Pride means nothing when your children are dying." "And the others?" "Each species has something they need from us. The Nari need our patrol ships to keep their trade routes safe. They need our adaptive technology to repair their aging infrastructure. Even the, for all their pride, rely on human engineering to keep their oldest stations running." She turned to look at her aide with eyes that held both wisdom and sadness. "We did not want this. We came to that table hopping for partnership. We offered friendship and received threats. We offered cooperation and received demands. They forced us to walk away." And now, looked back at the reports scrolling across her screen. Somewhere out there, 12 species were learning that the galaxy was not as simple as they had believed. Somewhere out there, the old order was crumbling and something new was being born. "Now we wait," she said. "We wait for them to understand what they lost. We wait for them to realize that we were never their enemy. We wait for them to come back to the table, ready to speak as equals. And if they choose war instead?" The question hung in the air between them, was silent for a long moment. "Then we will do what humanity has always done," she said finally. "We will survive. We will adapt. We will endure. And in the end, we will still be here, long after those who threatened us have become nothing but dust and memory." The universe was shaking, and humanity stood at the center of the storm, unbroken and unafraid. 6 months had passed since the walkout. 6 months of silence between humanity and the coalition. 6 months that changed everything. The first cracks appeared among their medical supplies, as predicted, began to run low. The gray sickness, a disease that had once killed millions, started to appear again in their floating cities. Hospitals filled with the sick and dying. Doctors worked day and night, trying to stretch their remaining stocks of human medicine as far as possible. Elder watched the crisis unfold with growing despair. She had warned the council. She had told them that humanity was too valuable to threaten, but no one had listened. The coalition's pride had been more important than common sense. Now her people were paying the price. "We must act," she told the Council of Waters. "Pride is a luxury we can no longer afford. Our children are dying. Our elders are suffering. We have the resources to trade. We have the goods that humanity wants. All we lack is the courage to reach out." "The coalition forbids direct contact with humans," said a younger council member. "High Speaker has made this clear. Any species that breaks ranks will face consequences." "What consequences?" demanded. "The coalition cannot even agree on what to do about the humans. They certainly cannot enforce a ban that half of them do not support." "But if we are the first to break, then we will be the first to save our people." His voice was firm. "I will not watch another child die because we were too afraid to ask for help." The council argued for 3 days. In the end, a secret message was sent to Earth requesting a meeting. The response came within hours. The humans were willing to talk. Ambassador received Elder on the human colony of New Sol. It was a symbolic choice. This was one of the worlds that the coalition had demanded humanity surrender. Instead of giving it up, humanity had made it a beacon of prosperity and hope. The meeting room was simple but comfortable. Human and chairs sat across from each other, designed to accommodate their different body shapes. Warm light filled the space. On the walls, paintings showed scenes of Earth's natural beauty, mountains and oceans and forests that they had never seen. Elder said, greeting her guest with a bow of respect. "Thank you for coming." Ambassador returned the gesture as best she could in her floating tank. "Thank you for agreeing to meet. I know that we have given humanity little reason to trust us." "Trust is earned through actions, not words," took her seat across from the elder. "Tell me why you are here." Was quiet for a moment. Her people valued honesty above all things. They believed that lies polluted the water of the soul. She would not dishonor that tradition now. "My people are dying," she said simply. "The gray sickness has returned. Our medicine stocks are nearly gone. We need help." Nodded slowly. Her face showed no triumph, no satisfaction at the suffering, only understanding. "We know about the outbreak," she said. "Our intelligence services have been monitoring the situation. We have prepared shipments of medicine that could reach your worlds within days." Hope flickered in his eyes. "You would help us, after everything that happened." "We never wanted to hurt anyone," replied. "We walked away from the coalition because we refused to be treated as servants, but that does not mean we have forgotten how to be friends." "What do you want in return?" The question hung in the air between them. This was the moment that would define everything. Braced herself for demands, for conditions, for the same kind of tribute that the coalition had tried to force on humanity. Instead smiled. "We want partnership," she said. "Real partnership. Not the kind where one side gives orders and the other obeys. The kind where both sides benefit. The kind where both sides are treated with respect." She touched a control and a holographic display appeared between them. It showed proposed trade agreements, technology sharing programs, cultural exchange initiatives. Everything was balanced. Everything was fair. "This is what we offer to all who want to work with us," explained. "No demands, no threats, no tribute, just honest trade between equals." Studied the display for a long time. Her people were known for their careful analysis of any deal. They looked for hidden traps, for secret clauses, for anything that might harm them in the long run. She found nothing. The terms were exactly as described: fair, reasonable, beneficial to both sides. "Why?" asked finally. "Why are you so generous? We supported the coalition's demands. We sat silent while they threatened you. We did nothing to help you when you needed friends." Was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft but clear. "Because hatred is a poison that kills the one who holds it. Because revenge is a fire that burns everything it touches. Because we believe that the galaxy can be better than it is, and the only way to make it better is to start acting like it." She looked directly at the elder. "We do not blame you for what happened. You were caught in a system that you did not create. A system built on fear and force and the belief that power comes from domination. We are offering you a different path. A path where strength comes from cooperation, where security comes from trust, where prosperity comes from sharing instead of taking." Felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. Real hope. Not the desperate hope of a drowning creature grasping at anything that might float, but the solid hope of someone who sees a way forward. "I accept your offer," she said. "On behalf of my people, I accept." The news of the agreement spread quickly. Within weeks, other species began to follow their example. The desperate for technology to repair their crumbling infrastructure reached out through back channels. The Nari, watching their trade routes become increasingly dangerous without human protection, sent their own delegation. Even some of the smaller coalition members, species who had joined out of fear rather than choice, began to question their loyalties. They saw what humanity offered. They saw what the coalition demanded. The choice was not difficult. High Speaker watched the coalition crumble with growing horror. Everything that had been built over 3 centuries was falling apart. Species that had once obeyed without question were now defying the coalition openly. Trade routes that had once been secure were now contested. The balance of power that had kept the galaxy stable was shifting in ways that no one had predicted. "We must act," shouted at an emergency session of the coalition. The humans are stealing our allies. They are undermining everything we have built. We must show them the consequences of their defiance. How? Demanded a representative. Our own fleet is scattered. Half of our species are already doing business with humans through unofficial channels. A war now would destroy us. Then what do you suggest? Skin flickered through a dozen colors of frustration. I suggest we face reality, said Sage of the Nari. Her voice was calm but carried weight that silenced the chamber. The old way is over. We cannot force anyone to obey us anymore. The only path forward is to change how we deal with others. Change? You mean surrender? I mean grow up. The sage spread her wings. For 300 years we have treated younger species like servants. We have demanded tribute. We have made threats. We have acted as if our age gave us the right to rule. And now we are paying the price for our arrogance. She looked around the chamber at the assembled delegates. The humans have shown us a different way. A way based on respect instead of fear. On cooperation instead of domination. On fairness instead of force. Perhaps it is time we learned from them instead of trying to destroy them. The chamber erupted in argument. Skin blazed with colors of anger and shame. Other delegates shouted accusations at each other. The unity that had once defined the coalition was gone, replaced by chaos and blame. But amid the noise, a few voices began to speak of something new. A few delegates began to consider the possibility that the sage was right, that the old way was truly over, that the only path forward was the one that humanity had shown them. Meanwhile, on Earth, received reports of the coalition's disintegration with mixed feelings. She took no joy in watching an ancient institution fall apart. She understood that chaos could be just as dangerous as tyranny, but she also knew that change was necessary. The galaxy could not continue as it had been. Brought her the latest intelligence summary. The home fleet has been recalled to their core worlds, he reported. They fear internal unrest. Several of their colony governors have declared neutrality in the conflict. There is no conflict, said quietly. We have not fired a single shot. But there is a war nonetheless, a war of ideas, a war for the future of the galaxy, and we are winning. Turn to look at him. Winning is not the goal. Building something better is the goal. If we simply replace the coalition's domination with our own, we will have changed nothing. What then? She walked to the window and looked out at the city below. New Seoul was thriving. Its streets were filled with beings of a dozen species, all living and working together in peace. Human and children played in the parks. Nari merchants sold their goods in the markets. Engineers helped maintain the city's systems. This was what she had dreamed of. This was what she had fought for. A galaxy where species helped each other instead of threatening each other, where differences were celebrated instead of feared, where the future was bright with possibility instead of dark with conflict. We keep building, she said finally. We keep showing the galaxy what is possible. We keep treating others the way we want to be treated. And eventually, even those who hate us will see that our way is better. And if they never see it, then we will continue without them. We do not need everyone to agree with us. We only need enough friends to protect what we have built. And judging from the reports, we have more friends now than ever before. Nodded slowly. He had served for many years. He had watched her navigate impossible situations with calm and wisdom. He had seen her turn enemies into allies and threats into opportunities, but he had never fully understood what drove her until now. It was not ambition, it was not revenge, it was not even self-defense. It was love, love for humanity, love for the galaxy, love for the idea that beings could live together in peace if only they had the courage to try. What happens next? He asked. Smiled. It was a small smile, but genuine. Next, we wait for them to realize that they need us more than we need them. And when they come back to the table ready to speak as equals, we will be there. Not to gloat, not to demand revenge, but to welcome them into a better future. Outside, the sun was setting over New Seoul. Its light painted the sky in shades of gold and purple and red. Somewhere in the city, music was playing. Somewhere, children were laughing. Somewhere, the future was being born. And humanity stood ready to meet it. 1 year had passed since the walkout. 1 year that felt like a lifetime. 1 year that changed the shape of the galaxy forever. The message arrived on a cold morning when the snow was falling over Earth's capital city. Ambassador was in her office, reviewing trade reports, when entered with an expression she had never seen before. "A ship has entered our system," he said. "A diplomatic vessel. High Speaker is aboard. They are requesting permission to land." Set down her work and was still for a long moment. Outside her window, the snow continued to fall, covering the city in soft white silence. "Grant them permission," she said finally, "and prepare a welcome appropriate for honored guests." Hesitated. "Are you sure, after everything they did?" "I am sure," stood and smoothed her uniform. "This is the moment we have been working toward. We will not ruin it with pettiness or pride." The ship landed at the main diplomatic port 3 hours later. Was there to meet it, accompanied by a small honor guard. The ramp lowered slowly, and High Speaker emerged into the cold Earth air. The alien looked different from before. Its skin, once vibrant with colors of confidence and authority, was now muted. Pale blues and grays dominated, the colors of uncertainty and humility. It moved more slowly than remembered, as if carrying a weight that pressed down on every step. "Ambassador," said, its voice was quieter than before, "thank you for receiving me." High Speaker gave the same bow of respect she had given a year ago on Helix 9. "Welcome to Earth." They looked at each other for a long moment. So much had happened since their last meeting. So much had changed. The galaxy itself was not the same place it had been. "I imagine you are wondering why I have come," said. "I have some ideas," replied, "but I would prefer to hear it from you." Made a sound that might have been a sigh. On a human, it would have been a sign of weariness. It was a sign of accepting difficult truth. "I have come to apologize," the High Speaker said. The words hung in the cold air between them. Snowflakes drifted down, landing on skin and melting slowly. 1 year ago, we sat at a table and told humanity that you had no choice but to accept our demands. We threatened you. We mocked you. We treated you like servants instead of partners. This was wrong. Skin shifted to deeper shades of gray. We believed that our age gave us wisdom. We believed that our power gave us rights. We believed that we could force others to obey because we had always forced others to obey. We were fools. Said nothing, she let the High Speaker continue. "Since you walked away, everything has fallen apart. The coalition is broken. Species that once obeyed us now ignore us. Trade routes that once brought us wealth now bring us nothing. Our economy is struggling. Our influence is fading. And every day we watch humanity grow stronger while we grow weaker." They looked up at the gray sky, at the snow falling from clouds that it had never seen before. "At first we blamed you. We called you arrogant. We called you dangerous. We planned ways to punish you for your defiance. But then slowly we began to understand the truth." Its eyes turned back to. "You were not the problem, we were, our greed, our pride, our refusal to see others as equals. These were the things that destroyed the coalition. Not you, never you." Silence fell between them. The honor guard stood motionless. Snowflakes continued to fall. Finally spoke. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I need you to understand," said. "What I am about to ask is not a demand. It is not a threat. It is not the coalition trying to regain control. It is one species, humbled and ashamed, asking another species for help." The High Speaker lowered its body in a gesture that had never seen a make before. It was a pose of submission, of surrender, of complete and total honesty. The coalition needs humanity, not as servants, not as junior partners, as equals, as friends, as the heart of a new alliance that can replace what we have destroyed. Looked at the alien before her. She saw the pride that had been broken, the arrogance that had been crushed, the slow, painful growth of understanding that had brought the High Speaker to this moment. And she saw something else, something she had never expected to see in a shifting colors. Hope. Stand up, High Speaker, she said gently. You do not need to kneel before us. That is not who we are. Rose slowly, confusion flickering across its skin. Come inside, continued. It is cold out here and we have much to discuss, but first let me tell you something important. She stepped forward until she was close enough to touch this massive form. We did not walk away to hurt you. We did not refuse your demands to make you suffer. We left because we believed that there was a better way. A way where all species could work together without fear or force. A way where the strong helped the weak instead of exploiting them. A way where the galaxy could become what it was always meant to be. Her voice softened. You have come here to ask for our help, and we will give it, not because we want power, not because we want revenge, but because helping others is what makes us human. It is what has always made us human, and we will not stop being human just because the galaxy tried to make us something else. Skin shifted through colors that had never seen before, colors that no human had ever witnessed, colors of deep emotion that the rarely allowed themselves to feel. Why, the High Speaker asked, why would you help those who tried to harm you? Smiled. Because we believe that people can change, species can grow, the future does not have to be like the past. We walked away from that table a year ago because we refused to accept a galaxy built on fear. Now you are standing here, asking for a different kind of galaxy. How could we say no? She gestured toward the building behind her. Come, there is warm food inside, and comfortable rooms where we can talk. We have a lot of work to do if we are going to build something new together. The negotiations that followed were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. There were no demands, no threats, no ultimatums. Instead, there were conversations, discussions, honest exchanges of needs and resources and hopes. Sat at the head of the table, but she did not dominate. She listened. She asked questions. She made sure that every voice was heard. The Nari, and representatives from a dozen other species all participated, all contributed, all were treated as equals. It took weeks to work out the details. The new alliance would be different from the coalition in every way. Decisions would be made by consensus, not by force. Trade would be fair and transparent. Each species would contribute what they could and receive what they needed. There would be no tribute, no demands, no masters and servants. When the final documents were ready, sign them first. The High Speaker's hand shook slightly as it made the mark that would bind the to a new future. I never thought I would see this day, said. A day when the most powerful species in the galaxy would sign a treaty as equals with those we once considered beneath us. Power is not measured in ships or weapons, replied. It is measured in the good that you do for others. By that measure, humanity has always been powerful, and now so will this alliance. One by one, the other representatives signed. The elder, the Nari sage, delegates from species large and small, old and young, strong and weak, all joined their names to a document that would change history. When it was done, stood before the assembled delegates. The room was full of beings from across the galaxy, all looking at her with expressions of hope and uncertainty and wonder. A year ago, she said, I walked out of a room very different from this one. I left behind species who saw humanity as nothing more than a resource to be exploited. I walked away from a galaxy that believed power came from domination and fear. She looked around at the faces before her. Today, we begin building something new. A galaxy where species help each other instead of threatening each other, where the strong protect the weak instead of preying on them, where every voice matters and every life has value. Her voice grew stronger. It will not be easy. There will be challenges ahead. There will be those who resist change, who long for the old ways, who believe that fear is the only thing that keeps order. But we have already proven that they are wrong. We have already shown that cooperation is stronger than coercion, that respect is more powerful than fear, that the galaxy can be better than it has been. She raised her hand in a gesture of welcome. Today, we are no longer ordinary or human. We are citizens of a new galaxy, partners in a shared future, and together we will build something that will last for 1,000 years. The room erupted in applause and sounds of celebration. Species that had been enemies for centuries embraced each other. Old wounds began to heal. New friendships began to form. Stood at the back of the room, watching his ambassador with pride. He remembered the cold moment on Helix 9 when she had turned and walked away. He remembered the fear he had felt, the uncertainty, the conviction that they were all going to die for her defiance. Now he understood. She had never been walking toward destruction. She had been walking toward this, toward a future that no one else could see, toward a galaxy transformed by courage and hope and an unshakable belief that beings could be better than they were. Later that night, after the celebrations had ended and the delegates had retired to their quarters, stood alone on a balcony overlooking the city. The snow had stopped, and the stars were visible through breaks in the clouds. Somewhere out there, beyond the sky, a new era was beginning. Found her there, as he always did. "You did it," he said. "You changed everything." Shook her head. "I did nothing. Humanity did this. Every person who worked and built and dreamed of something better, every colonist who tamed a harsh world, every doctor who healed the sick, every captain who protected the trade routes. They did this. I only showed the galaxy what we had already become." "And what have we become?" She was quiet for a long moment, looking up at the stars. "We have become what we were always meant to be," she said finally. "Not conquerors, not servants, not the young species that needs protection or the dangerous species that needs to be controlled. We have become partners, builders, friends." She turned to look at him with eyes that held the light of 1,000 hopes. "We have become human, and for the first time, the galaxy is ready to see what that really means." Above them, the stars continued their eternal dance. The universe stretched on forever, full of wonders yet to be discovered and challenges yet to be faced. But for this moment, on this night, all that mattered was the warmth of hope and the promise of tomorrow. The day humans left at the table of negotiation, the universe was shaken. And it was never the same again.